The Digital Future Lab, or the DFL, is actually a co-curricular research lab and game studio located on the University of Washington Bothell campus.
A college-sponsored indie game studio. I can only imagine what kind of product vision they have for themselves.
We employ mostly students with a very small core of professional staff, and we focus on the intersections of technology and social justice through the lens of what we call radical diversity.
Radical diversity. You heard it here first, folks. The intersection of technology and social justice as seen through the lens of radical diversity. And what is radical diversity? I have no idea. I have looked up the term, but I cannot find a clear definition of exactly what it means to be radically diverse. Let's see if our game studio gives us some answers.
Radical diversity is the way we describe our approach to intentionally maximizing difference on our teams at the DFL.
And then you get like an extra 2 turns.
Intentionally maximizing difference on your teams. So, rather than relatively basic aesthetic diversity, it's maximum diversity. Does that just mean they have exceedingly strict and detailed quotas on who will or will not be accepted onto their team? Let's make sure. Here's how it's described in a newspaper article from a couple of months ago. They have baked into the identity of the DFL what they call radical diversity, the intentional focus on maximizing and bringing to the forefront differences on a team of people with different backgrounds, abilities, and academic focuses. In planned topic discussions or spontaneous conversations, some students might speak about the racism or sexism they've experienced. Some might speak about neurological differences or neurodiversity. For example, Pace, the project director, who has ADHD, has drastically different communication needs than people with Asperger's. Right, but here's my question. Does this mean that different equals better?
We build a space that values, respects, and seeks out people across a whole lot of different avenues of difference.
My pronouns are she, her.
My name is Emmett. I go by he, him, and...
Sir, are you classified as human?
Negative. I am a meat popsicle.
It's going to open us up to media that other people wouldn't think to create.
Other people. I wonder how they define other in this case. How different do you have to be to qualify as different?
Because the set of minds that are channeling into that product are going to be people who aren't necessarily represented everywhere.
True, but ultimately I would think you would want to make a product that has wide appeal. How granular in your thinking can you get without making such a niche product that it will only cater to a very small market?
There are actually 3 things that count on Greenlight for getting approved. Yes votes is...
Our executive director, Jason Pace, and Ina, as a team, are also really awesome.
Go ahead, up to the front, tell us what we're looking at, why it's important.
They have industry-level experience and standards for the work we do and won't let us get away with anything less than that. That's something that's going to be really beneficial in the workplace.
Jason Pace has a long history with games, having worked for Microsoft for several years and being involved with, among other things, the Halo series. Ina Braxton has a BA in Law, Economics, and Public Policy, and she's passionate about social justice. It seems that they represent the intersection of technology and social justice through a lens of radical diversity.
When I started at the DFL, I really did not know what I was doing with my life. I came out through the lab and through being in a really comfortable, very supportive space. I'm a very proud trans man and I'm a very proud queer man, and there's so much that I have gotten from that in terms of my perspective on the world, and this is one of the only spaces where I felt fully comfortable saying, like, that is an asset and that is valuable to the people around me.
What you are is a valuable asset. Being trans and queer gives you an advantage. Why? How does being trans and or queer elevate your perspective over anyone who is neither of those things? How do you know that another person's thoughts are less valuable than yours? Let's read a little earlier from that same article. On a Friday morning, students filter into UW Bothel's Digital Future Lab before their weekly check-in meeting. Rows of computers, covered in post-it notes and stickers, compete for desk space with toys and snacks. Stuffed Pokemon, jelly beans, a foam Batman figurine, peanut butter pretzels, and a tiny basketball. It may look like you'd expect a game studio to look, but it doesn't act like one. Aina Braxton, the lab's assistant director, kicks off the meeting by asking everyone to gather in a circle to share their names and gender pronouns. Aina, she, her. Jason, they, them. Malik, he, him. Braxton and executive director Jason Pace remind newcomers that it's part of their culture to start every meeting this way. They've normalized it, Braxton says, quote, because we don't want to make assumptions about you or your identity. They don't want to make assumptions about your identity. They need you to label yourself every meeting. They want to normalize the consideration of others on the basis of what they are and how they identify. I wonder if someone could come to this project who simply has a passion for gaming and says nothing else about what they are or what their background is. Wouldn't that be the ideal? A team unified by a shared passion, rather than one starting every meeting verifying what they are beyond a common interest? The idea that difference between people is more and more defined by superficial characteristics really troubles me. That the imperative to be anything other than normal is encouraged and celebrated. That specific differences, being anything other than straight or anything other than what biology might otherwise dictate of you, is held aloft as things to revere rather than to ignore in favor of the content of one's character. It would seem as though anyone lacking such outward or proclaimed specialness is devalued or thought less of. If you don't look like us, if you don't sleep with people the same way we do, you are an outsider. It all sounds very familiar. In the realm of personal encouragement, there is the oft-repeated phrase of just be yourself. Defining what that is, of course, is likely a lifetime endeavor. But if you intentionally work to only surround yourself with people who are different, first and foremost on the basis of how different they are from what you perceive as mundane, I'm not sure you're being radically diverse, as much as you might be just immensely shallow. As always, thank you for watching.